So here at ORUUC, we are in a time of big but slow-moving changes. The pandemic was a time of big but fast changes, you may remember, like a meteor striking, everything changing all at once. But these changes are more like a glacier. They're happening, and they're going to change the landscape. They're just not all at once. Hopefully not all the dinosaurs get, set on fire, nothing like that. You all have already been through some enormous changes in the last few years. The end of Reverend Jake Morrill and Reverend Tandy Scheffler's ministry with you all, and the subsequent interim ministry of Reverend Lisa, who is now very happily retired in Asheville with her grandbaby, who is just the cutest. Even so, there may be some grief or stress left over from these changes, and that's totally normal. You can talk to me, you can talk to your leaders, you can talk to each other about however these changes may be feeling. Even though we're happy, we're excited, I'm happy to be here, change can be hard. This week's big change, which you might have heard about once or twice, is that I am now the minister of Oak Ridge UU Church. And you don't have to applaud me again unless you really want to. Thank you though, thank you. The advice that ministers get for our first year of new ministry is don't change a bunch of stuff right away. My arrival is the big change. So instead, I'll be learning about the community, why things are the way they are, who you are as a group and as individuals. You are probably also curious about me, and you're gonna get to hear plenty about it, but I wanna give you a mini version. Those of you who were here during my candidating week heard a version of this, but just in case there's new folks, I want to share a little bit about me briefly. I'm from Powell, Tennessee originally, just up the road, but I've lived in Michigan for about half my life. I lived in Nashville for a few years, Massachusetts for 3 years during divinity school. I've been kind of all over the place. My family lives in Nashville, and that's where I became a Unitarian Universalist back in 2016. I consider myself an atheist, which I mean to say that means that the concept of a personified God or gods doesn't really work for me personally. However, I really respect that other people's relationship with their gods is very real and affects how they behave in the world. And because we're connected, it affects my life. So I am not the kind of atheist who would ever say God does not exist, right? Because in many ways, that's not true. More important to me than being an atheist is that I consider myself a mystic. For those who don't know, there are mystics in all the world's religions, like a golden thread that weaves throughout them, like tapestries. A mystic is someone who tries to be in tune with the transcendent oneness of the universe or the divine, and act in support of that interdependent web. Because of this connection to other religions, I love learning about different spiritualities. So sometimes you may detect streaks of paganism or Buddhism, and right now, I'm actually in a little bit of a witchy phase. So, like many of you, I'm a lifelong seeker, and I love that Unitarian Universalism lets us follow wherever our curiosity may lead us. Another thing about me, I am a new minister. I graduated from Harvard Divinity School in 2022, and I was ordained 2 months ago at my home congregation in Nashville. In my application to ORUUC, I wrote that I bring with me the fresh perspective of inexperience, which is a nice way of saying I don't always know what I'm doing. I have been through 4 or 5 years of training, and I do bring with me a few reference points from the church in Nashville, the New England churches I visited, from the excellent divinity school I attended, and from Minneapolis, where I spent my ministerial internship, as well as from Foothills UU Fellowship down the road in Maryville, where I worked last year as their contract minister. So I'm not totally new, but I'm pretty new. Mostly I'm a blank slate, and I'm excited to learn how y'all do things here at ORUUC. You've been doing this, for the most part, a lot longer than me. This is a unique town, and probably the most unique congregation in the town, if I am guessing correctly. And I just can't wait to celebrate each other's weirdnesses. I am truly honored to have been chosen as your settled minister, and I am so happy to be here. You all were my first choice from the beginning. Sorry to the other congregations that I applied to. I already love this town that science built, which is near my birthplace and my beloved Smoky Mountains. It feels like it's meant to be. Right now, I'm still living about half an hour away in Maryville, but I plan to move closer when it's feasible. You all may have heard real estate's kind of cuckoo right now. I live there with my sibling, Zach, who's here today. Wave hi, Zach. He'll come visit with me sometimes. And for the joy of being together today, I'd also like to thank the ORUUC search team one more time. Sarah Gunter, Dave Dunkirk, Carol Bean, Beth Meyer, Michael Bjerke, Patton Fischel, and Christy White. Let's give them a round. Y'all's service to the congregation was tremendous and deeply appreciated. You have changed the path that ORUC is going to be on. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, that's a bit about me and what's brought me here to this point. Let's also talk a little bit about my philosophy of ministry, so we kind of know what's going to happen going forward. Most religions have clergy, but ministry, in particular, is a concept that mostly comes from the Christian roots of Unitarian Universalism. Back in the day, it defaulted to the hierarchical, patriarchal, wise father minister archetype. You might also hear us called pastors, as in pastoral, as in pasture, where sheep are protected and guided by shepherds. Suffice it to say, that ain't me. I am not your dad, and I'm not a shepherd because you are not sheep. UUs are brilliant, curious, capable people, and that's not the kind of relationship I want to have. Except maybe at the Christmas pageant. If you want to be the sheep, we can talk about it. Since that time back in the day of traditional white male ministers, UUs have been changing the game. We were the first to have women ministers, openly queer ministers, and ministers who didn't believe in God. The Unitarians basically founded humanism. So those folks have been broadening the horizons of what ministry can mean, and I'm part of that tradition. Of course, there are other Christian elements to the profession. You may notice the fit today. I think it's called a cassock. I'm kind of getting used to it. It's really long. Also this stole, and stoles like it. I feel comfortable wearing these. I think they're kind of fun. They make things feel a little special. So there's Christian elements of the ministry profession that I'm comfortable with, and there's others that don't fit me quite as well. So I don't really use the word reverend. You can just call me Lóre. That's just fine with me. I'm not going to be offended if you call me that. No big deal. I respect and I enjoy both the Christian and the many non-Christian elements of our faith, and I'm really grateful that I get to choose the parts that are right for me, and that you all get to choose the parts that are right for you. So, in case you're not familiar, in case this is your very first Sunday, what does a minister do exactly? Boy, that's a great question. During training, we focus on 7 areas: worship and rites of passage, pastoral care and presence, there's that pastoral, that's okay, spiritual growth for self and others, social justice in the public square, administration, serving the larger UU faith, and leading the faith into the future. So what don't we do is probably a better question. One of the reasons I like this profession is the variety. I like that each day is a little bit different, but to sum it up, I see the role of minister as a spiritual specialist. I think of it like the navigator on a ship rather than the captain. I'm not the boss. I'm that slightly strange crew member who's in tune with the sea and the stars. the natural currents, the spiritual undercurrents, the voice of the big picture. I will offer you that information, and we will decide together on the goals and the faithful actions that this congregation will take. The congregation itself is the ship, and we're all the crew. We're all the passengers on this blue boat home. That's how I think of ministry. Another incredibly important piece of this profession is being with you all during the big events of your lives. Hospital stays, children being born and being dedicated, weddings, the passing of a loved one, memorials. These are the moments when we ask the big questions. Why are we here? Where do we go? It's not a minister's job to answer these questions, at least not in Unitarian Universalism. But instead, I can offer you some of the wisdom of the world. I can ask you what you think happens, why we're here, and where we're going to go. And I can sit with you as the personification of divine presence or oneness of the universe there next to you, so you know you aren't alone. When these times arise, please reach out to me, because I'm not a mind reader. You got to tell me when things are going on, you know what I'm saying? But when you're going into, even if it's a routine surgery, I can come visit you in the hospital. If you've got a new house that you want to bless and cleanse, I can come do that. You know, all these kinds of things. You aren't alone. That's the point. And you never have been. You are an inseparable part of the universe. Temporary, small, but precious. And I am really glad to be here to remind you of that. So, we've talked about the big change of my arrival as your minister. Another big glacial change is that last month, the Unitarian Universalist Association, which is the international body made up of all the UU member congregations, completed a multi-year-long process to re-articulate Article 2 in our UUA bylaws, which was previously known as our 7 principles and 6 sources, an example of which you can see in the lobby when you head out, if you're not already familiar. The General Assembly delegates voted, and the proposed revision to Article 2 overwhelmingly passed. And we are so grateful to all the folks, including one of the members over at Foothills, who worked on this process, because it was arduous. This is a really big change. A lot of us love our principles. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who can say they're part of the reason I became a UU. But this actually isn't the first change to these principles. They were created in the 60s. Some of you were created before the 60s, you know what I mean? They're not that old. And they were changed again in the 80s. We are a living tradition. Unlike other religions, we don't pick one book and say it has to be this forever. Instead, we reflect, we shift. We don't lock ourselves in doctrines and ancient rules. So while the 7 principles and 6 sources have changed, it does not mean that they are trash and that we'll never talk about them again. Wisdom's not disposable. Even those ancient rules, even those sacred texts from thousands of years ago still have valuable information for us. The 7 principles and 6 sources are a treasured part of our history that will continue to hold meaning for many of us. Many parts of them are contained in the new version of the values and covenants. And we'll be talking about these plenty going forward, because with all the changes you all have been going through, I've been told you didn't dig too deeply into these. So that's all right, we'll do that together. Last week. Cool. Right. Oh, yeah. That's good. So you've at least been introduced to them. That's good. We'll dig deeper into them together. So let me give you all a brief introduction, although it sounds like you did it, so I'll blaze through this pretty quick. These are now sort of the basic foundational values that most UUs can agree on, in addition to the many values that each of us have that are different from each other, right? These aren't laws, these aren't requirements. Let's take a look. So first we've got love in the center. I'm just gonna read you the language of the text because I think it's pretty new and pretty important. We draw from our heritages of freedom, reason, hope, and courage, building on the foundation of love. Love is the power that holds us together, and is at the center of our shared values. We are accountable to one another for doing the work of living our shared values through the spiritual discipline of love. So all those terms like spiritual discipline and stuff, we're going to chew on all of those going forward. Very exciting. The 7 principles were in numbered order, but these are not. They're in sort of a swooshy wheel, so you can start anywhere. We're going to go to pluralism next. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, experience, and theology. We covenant to learn from one another in our free and responsible search for truth and meaning. So you might hear that's our 5th principle in there, or maybe 3rd. See, I can't even keep them straight. But there's like parts of our old principles in there. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect. Next is generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely and compassionately share our faith, presence, and resources. Our generosity connects us to one another in relationships of interdependence and mutuality. Justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all thrive. You may notice beloved communities is capitalized because that's a theological concept that comes from the tradition of Martin Luther King Jr. We'll dig into that in the future. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. One reason that we changed these, the new values, is because we wanted it to specifically say that. The 7 principles didn't. So we covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of systemic oppression. We support the use of inclusive democratic processes to make decisions within our congregations, our association, and society at large. Interdependence. We honor the interdependent web of all existence. There's the 7th principle. With reverence for the great web of life and with humility, we acknowledge our place in it. We covenant to protect Earth and all beings from exploitation. We will create and nurture sustainable relationships of care and respect, mutuality and justice. We will work to repair harm and damaged relationships. Equity. We declare that every person is inherently worthy and has the right to flourish with dignity, love, and compassion. There's our first principle tucked in there. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain fully accessible and inclusive communities. Finally, transformation. We adapt to a changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Openness to change is fundamental to Unitarian and Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect. So, those are our new values. Pretty exciting. You don't have to make your mind up about these right away. Nobody is going to make you sign a form saying you love the values. You don't have to take any kind of creedal test. That's not what we're about. But what I would ask is that we explore these with open-mindedness to see what wisdom they might hold for us as individuals and as a community. This is a change. This is a transformation. And the value of transformation invites us to be open to that change, to adapt and to grow. We are living in a time of great changes. Here at ORUUC, I am optimistic that the changes will be pretty wonderful in this lively and lovely community. In our state and our nation, the changes could go either way. We're going to stay tuned. But in Parable of the Sower, if you have read that book, she tells you that even if God is change, change exists to shape and be shaped. We can influence the changes that occur. So I invite you to be partners with me in our ministry and with each other. Change will occur, but we can work on which changes and how they come about. Even so, this is a lot of change all at once, which naturally increases anxiety in our bodies and in the system of our community, and that's totally normal. Did anyone see Inside Out 2 recently? Yeah, a few of us, with the new character Anxiety. Well, anxiety can arise in fearful thoughts, in dread, uneasiness and threat forecasting. Lots of negative what ifs. I think we might have a slide for it. Oh, maybe not. Okay. Well, it's this little orange guy who's got zany hair and is carrying lots of suitcases, got some baggage, you know what I'm talking about? With anxiety, part of our brain is uncertain and is trying to protect us by guessing what's going to happen, what could hurt us, what could possibly go on. It sometimes wants us to either freeze up and don't do anything, maybe if I just hold still, nothing will hurt me, or to take actions that aren't quite proportional to the situation. Okay, a lot of change is happening. Maybe if I do this big thing, then I'll be safe. In Inside Out 2, anxiety starts to overfunction and makes big choices out of fear. But another part of our brain can be trained to recognize if there's any actual harm incoming or not. And if not, to calm us back down. This is what reminded me of the scene from sci-fi movies where the astronauts are returning to Earth and someone yells, "Brace for re-entry!" And there's like fire outside the window and everything's shaking and it's great. The astronauts buckle up and they hold onto their chairs so that they don't get tossed around the cockpit. So in this time of great change, what can ground us? What spiritual practices can decrease anxiety during this time? For me, meditation really helps. Or for you, it might be prayer, gardening, volunteering, singing together, playing music, or dancing. Participating in your favorite groups at ORUUC, like Reflections, Stone Soup, line dancing, or faith formation. All of these can help you ground down and process your anxiety. They can help you brace by reconnecting you with what's most important while things change around you. It is quite likely that anxiety will arise within most of us during the next couple months, as well as in the system of ORUUC as a whole. Anxiety is probably going to arise in me. Actually, it already has, and that is okay. In the words of Mr. Rogers, feelings are mentionable and manageable. That's why I feel comfortable telling you that the days before I started, my anxiety had a lot to say. My brain kept going, what if it all goes terribly wrong? But because I have, my spiritual practices, I've been through some therapy, I went, okay, brain, I think we might be freaking out a little bit. And I found a great meditation in my meditation app that was specifically for returning to work and that normalized what I was feeling. And meditation can help you reconnect to what's real, what's actually going on around you, and usually it's not as bad as your brain is, the sirens going off in your brain. Sometimes when I feel my anxiety whirring up, I simply say, my name is Lóre Stevens, and I am present in this moment. I've been amazed at how effective that is, of just going, whoop, actually, I'm here, and it's okay, and then moving forward. So in the next couple months, even within the next year, if you start to notice yourself feeling anxious, oh, Lóre changed something, oh, I don't know if I like the way she does this thing, that's okay. You can come talk to me, or you can chat with your board of trustees. Let us know what's going on. Let us know what's bothering you, and we can work together. Especially because I don't know very much, I'm probably gonna make every possible mistake. But we can try to work on it together and imagine some positive what-ifs. In those space movies, after the astronauts yell, brace for re-entry, after all the fire and the shaking and they crash down in the water, there's usually a scene of great triumph. The music swells and the astronauts come out of their pod and people come up in their boats to rescue them, and there's big smiles and waving arms as their earthbound counterparts greet them. We are in a time of great change, but we are in it together. May it be so. My call to action, which is also something new to me, is to ask you in the coming days, reflect on your needs, your spiritual needs, and on your dreams for this community. Share your hopes with myself and your board members. With your input, we will shape our goals and move together into a bright future. Please join me to bless and be blessed. You can raise your hands or put them on your hearts, or you can just sit still, whatever feels good. Let us receive change in our lives with grace and optimism. Let's grow together in our shared values. Let us work to increase the love and vitality in our families, communities, and the world. May it be so. Thank you. We are in a time of great change, but we are in it together. As a final act of worship, please turn and greet your neighbors.
Stay tuned.